What does it mean?
I don't know.
There's something on the other side of that portal. The obstacle is the path.
Stand by. I need further instructions from Earth before proceeding.
Good thing I don't.
Each key that I possess makes the portal larger. With all of them, I will be able to fully draw our world across the barrier to this one.
I've seen historical hollows of cities like this. Old Earth tech.
Doesn't look like a time-space portal, does it?
No, it looks like a cave.
I presume we have exactly what we need to create our own portals now? Yes, we do.
Good evening. Just barely. Good evening. I am starting at 11:46. Holy crap.
Oh my gosh, no kidding. Hello,
okay.
everybody.
Hey guys, we are
Welcome.
welcoming you, and also we are very tired, but with good spirits. Buen ánimo, we would say in Spanish, with a good ánimo. I don't know what to say in English. I'm tired. So,
English is your first language, Rick.
it is, sure. I just, decided not to translate anything. Guys, we are talking about two topics today. We're actually doing two episodes, which is why we are a little bit, a little parched when it comes to speech and a little bit tired in general.
We are. It has been a long week.
Jeez, it seems like they just keep getting longer. Merry Christmas to you guys. By the time you're watching this, it'll almost be Christmas, so that's exciting. Yes, and I'm happy to say Merry Christmas. I don't care how many pagans.
Fröhlich Weihnachten.
There you go, that old chestnut.
Well, I could say Feliz Navidad, but chances are I would blow it. However, I think I didn't do too terribly bad there.
You probably could even do it in Portuguese. Feliz Navidad. It's very simple.
Navidade.
Navidade, yeah, Navidade. So guys, we were talking about two particular topics today, and I will get to them in just a second. I will let you know what they're about before we do. We're talking about ancient portals and or stargates, however you want to label them. Stargate seems to be more of the fan fiction type at the moment expression for it, but really, and ultimately that's what they are. I mean, and actually we have some there are hieroglyphs in Egypt that suggest that there are the literal hieroglyphic spelling of the words Stargate. So, I mean, it's not, out of the blue, out of the weird. Abydos has it, I believe, in some other places as well. So we'll get into that stuff in a little bit. Actually, wasn't planning to go there, but it's part of it. And the other is going to be about the aliens. The aliens.
The
Yes.
aliens.
The aliens. And UFOs and portals. Really, we're talking about UFOs and portals, but aliens are inadvertently going to come up. I mean,
well, yeah, because who's in the UFOs?
Well, that's a good question. Who is in those UFOs? Anyway, so without further ado, let me give you the wonderful intro. You can choose from this one, or you can. No, okay, guys. So today we are talking about those two topics, and we're going to do two separate podcasts. These are going to drop when they drop, which will be before the end of the year. And if you're a subscriber,
in 2023,
that's right, here in 2023, just in time for 2024, we're going to have some cool stuff coming out. As you guys will remember, my plan up to this point is still to interview that pastor from Mexico City, who is a metal pastor, and I've been watching. Actually, he's done two podcasts in the past.
Dude, he's got Jesus all over him. It was really cool. I watched that.
What's that one?
That one video, and I was like, oh. Yeah, it was real good.
He's
Really, really
he's
good.
he's a very interesting guy. He's a real interesting guy. Um, and he really does, man. He works hard for the kingdom, and he's got an interesting story. I can't wait to tell you guys. And
So
so I'll be spending time dubbing that, and also I am definitely going to over to Cholula with the family. So we're going to make a day of it, but we're certainly going to get some recording done and some filming on site. Doing some research currently about that. Light right now, but it's about to get real heavy as soon as I finish all the stuff I got to do. So stay tuned for that, guys. That is excellent. That's the beginning of our 2024 explosive
Jeez,
beginning.
Louise, where did
Yeah,
the year go?
it's crazy, man. I can't believe we've been doing this for a year. So this is going to be episode number 20. I think it's 24 and 25, which is exactly what we planned. It's actually turning out phenomenally good. I think we had 1-2 week span where we couldn't make up the episode, and we ended up doing it here anyway. So very cool. Very, very cool. Guys, you can subscribe for $3 a month on Patreon or on Spotify. I recommend Patreon because even though I think we get paid a little bit less, you guys actually get a little bit more updates. It's easier for me to keep tabs on you. If you're a Spotify subscriber, please email me at the Christian Theological Dark Web at gmail.com so that I can make sure I'm keeping in touch with you guys and putting you on our mailing list. Because, I always send out everything so that everybody's just kind of all in the same loop, even though we have 2 platforms for it. Be patient with me. I'm hoping that we can integrate both and that it would just be awesome. You'd have access to either one. That would be very cool. I know Patreon does something like that. So definitely go ahead and sign up for $3 a month. If you don't want to do that, that is okay. We also have stickers as of now, and we are in talks. I'm waiting to hear back from a friend who works, subscriber friend as well, who works here locally near Houston, the Houston area. I'm in Austin. Shelley's in El Paso. We're literally scattered across the 4 corners of the earth, also known as Texas. So I'm excited about that. We're going to get some shirts going. We got some ideas for that. We got at least 2 or 3 in the works, I think, right, Shell? That we're looking at. We got 2 or 3 ideas. So stay tuned for that, guys. Obviously, if you want a sticker, get a hold of me directly if you want to. You can also check our solo.to/CTDW Facebook page, Instagram. You can buy them directly off of TikTok if you want to. There's all sorts of ways to get a hold of these bad boys, and we would love to get one out to you. Don't miss it. Go buy one. Support us, but also let people know that you have decided that you are not part of the Western Veil. You have decided that you believe the Bible and its intense supernatural implications. So
You'll even take the weird stuff that makes us mildly uncomfortable to extremely unnerved.
yeah, man. I mean, and Shelley and I are part of this journey with you guys. Don't think that you're alone in it. We get weirded out. We get uncomfortable. We get challenged a lot. I am constantly, when I'm reading stuff, I'm trying to understand how it fits into the word, because I know the word to be true. And so when I see something that I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this, I have to sit. Sometimes I have to pray about it. Sometimes I just have to leave it alone for a while. But I engage. We both do. So anyway, Shell, how you doing?
I am all right. I work for a company that took over several companies over the last couple of years, and a very big one this year, and we went live on Monday. So I have already worked well over 40 hours this week. It is Thursday, and my brain, I'm pretty sure, oozed out my ears last night. But I will do this with whatever intellect remains, behind my eyes.
We have every plan. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say it's good. Christmas is almost here. We're excited. Family's making plans. We're spending our time together. So I can't wait.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, we were supposed to record on Tuesday, but you were just like,
Yeah.
worked 26 hours in 2 days. I'm gonna rest. And I was like, that's totally
Yeah, I
fine with
was
me.
exhausted.
So
It was falling to bed and climb out of bed when the alarm went off. Today it was just like we all came in, and I think everybody's so tired that you hit that second wind thing going on. But
You're like
you know what?
Anakin
It's
Skywalker crawling
right.
up the mountain, burning.
It doesn't. It won't last. And the beginning of something is always intense because it's new and you have to figure things out. And this is one of those things. Everybody say hello to Dominic Pareto. He goes to try to find another place to
It's
be.
hilarious that you give many of your animals like very human names. It's so funny to me.
Yeah. Well,
That's powerful.
apparently, little Astro is sleeping down under my desk.
Well, he's a baby, so makes sense.
And we'll see. He's only been in the house for 2 hours, 3 hours max, and
Bam.
his name is not secured yet. But he's a very cute little black Frenchie, and my husband's not very happy, but I think he's darling.
I think he's adorable too. I
He's
wouldn't want him in
pretty
my
cute.
house because people are always like, why don't you don't have any dogs? You don't have any cats? I'm like, no. And they're like, why? I'm like, I have 2 kids. Why would I want any more animals? And he's like, what's going on? Just kidding.
Because animals are good for kids, Ricky.
Yeah, they're also good outside. I'm good.
They teach your children all sorts of things.
Yeah,
But
I mean, that's fair.
not everybody is animal people. I'm very much animal people.
We had no idea.
My husband is way less animal people than me. Oh, I think they do. They have heard the bird. They have seen the cats be all silly, and they've heard the dogs.
The word. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, cat,
Good
go
stuff.
away. And sometimes, I get people's decision to not have any.
Yeah.
Really.
I love
Sometimes
animals. I
I
just
do.
don't want them in my house, but I think they're great. That's what it comes down to.
That's how I feel about teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can do about that one. That one's well on its way. So,
Right. No, actually, I loved having teenagers live in my house. It's a total lie. I loved them.
kids are good, man. Kids are a blessing. They truly are.
They very much are.
Well, guys, without further ado, I think we're gonna go and get started on this bad boy. I don't know exactly what to title this one, but we are talking about ancient portals and the ancients' view of why portals existed and all that stuff. I mean, that's really what we're talking about in this first. I guess we could call it a 2-part episode, but we're gonna go through this one and go straight into the next one. Obviously, we're gonna cut them up, right? But on 2 different places, but really they are meant to be one in the same. They're really tied to each other, but
Really parts of the same album side A, album side B.
Yeah, and really we wanted to just the B sides. That's very funny. We wanted to make it in such a way that we could categorically kind of separate these things because they're hard not to
Mesh together.
they just fuse into each other. They really do, and that's okay. But when you're trying to grapple with the information, it can be a little difficult. So we wanted to start with the ancient and then go to the more modern, which is what we're dealing with, which isn't so different, and we shall see that in the coming minutes and hours. Good deal. So, ancient portals. What is a portal? That's probably a good place to start. We've we have definitely beat the crap out of that dead horse many times, but I felt it was interesting literally just to go and look up a definition to see what a portal is. I think that's very helpful. So a portal is a doorway or an entrance or gate, especially one that is large and imposing. Good word. Sometimes found in large buildings, at other times found between dimensions. Again, this is not my definition. What is a Stargate? I literally took this right off of Wikipedia, so take it for what it's worth.
On the internet, it must be true.
Yes, like all things CNN. A fictional Einstein-Rosen bridge portal device, ... that allows rapid interstellar location travel. It is almost verbatim. I edited it just a little bit so it wouldn't go on and on and on. and we didn't talk about Stargate the series, which I just did. So there you go.
I really
um,
need to watch the series. I don't think I've ever watched it. Now I
are
want to
you
because
serious?
yeah, I mean I watched the movie, but
Oh
I
my
don't think I've
gosh!
seen any of the series. And
Holy cow! I can't believe
then
you've not
in
seen that.
searching for stuff on Stargates, all is what I ran into is stuff
Stargate
about the
series.
series,
Yeah,
the science behind it, and so like some really interesting stuff.
very
And
cool.
so yeah, I really will watch it as soon as I have 2 hours to rub together. Man,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
got
a
2 pennies to rub together.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's what I was
it is
thinking.
it is an excellent series, and honestly, if you guys have not watched that series, and I really recommend watch it from the original Stargate movie because man, it is so cool. It is just it's a
I don't know if I
sci-fi.
can go back to the 1994.
I'm telling you, you should go watch it. I've rewatched it.
Okay.
It's really good. It's a good
Yeah.
movie.
I mean, I
It's really
enjoyed the movie when it came out, I remember, but
well because
and I
these
definitely think I want to because my point with bringing it up is that they really do a lot of scientific
yeah,
um background.
well, and not just
They've got
scientific. They do history, man. They get
yeah,
solid
they
history.
do.
It's really cool.
One of the probably producers, I don't know because I haven't watched the series, so I don't know who these guys are, but they got to go to uh oh gosh, NORAD, was it? Maybe.
Ooh,
What's
possibly.
in the Denver area?
I think. Oh man, I was just watching about
That Air
NORAD.
Force Base there.
I don't remember what's that. It's in Denver.
Well, it's around Denver. It's in Colorado. It's the big Air Force base. It's the one that goes down under the mountain. Um,
I know what
but
you're talking about.
they
What it's
got to
called.
go and film there for a few days or 2
That's super
days or
cool.
something, and like
That's super cool.
they were fangirling about it hardcore. So it was really interesting.
That is my mom's favorite sci-fi. I think it's like a
After Star
hard.
Trek?
I don't know, man. I think she might like it more than Star Trek. She really likes that
Really?
series. It's really
Wow.
good. I mean, we would watch that. That was if that show came on, and like no, my dad didn't insist on watching it. My mom was like, that show was always going to be on the TV, and it's awesome. It really is. It's a
That's
really good
fun.
series. So without further ado, now that we've kind of rambled about Stargate, the series, which is really good. I do recommend you guys watch it. And actually, it'll be very informative if you do, based on what we're talking about right now, in general. So we kind of know what that is. We want to start with what the ancients considered a Stargate or portal, whatever you want to call it. Um, it's a complicated thing to come to a solid definition on, only because there are so many aspects to what portal means for the ancients, right? It's very different than just the scientific lens that we want to view it through, which is
Right.
it's an Einstein-Rosen bridge, and that's the end of it, and it's going to take us from point A to point B, and that's it. If we can just figure out how not to get ripped into pieces and shreds by the black hole, we're good.
Right.
So it that we will find out very quickly does not seem to be a one and done or an easy kind of open shut case. It's not. So I guess we're going to start right from the Nimrod Babel area, Shell, and I'm going to kind of let you lead on this because we were talking about this beforehand, and I think that you have some good information to really comment on this here.
Right. And let me say too, I know we were just talking about the Einstein-Rosen bridge, but the premise that a Stargate is a wormhole between two locations is the most common. But what if Stargates are just really um, a door between dimensions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you don't have to be torn apart by a wormhole because you're not going vast distances. You're just going from one dimension into another, which I mean boggles the mind really if you think about it. But having said that, Babel, man, I have learned so much about uh, Babel this past year. I mean, and I knew some about it beforehand. You know, tower is such a misnomer. It wasn't a tower, it's a ziggurat. It was a pyramid. Um, whether it was in Eridu or Babylon, meh, you know, uh,
601.
archaeology will give us more information on it.
And you can go
The
back and
thing of
watch that episode if you want to, which is all about
That's
Nimrod.
right.
It's there.
You'll
So
learn a little bit more about
was
Babel too.
episode 14. It's all about ziggurats. So yeah, you'll see that there.
So,
Yeah,
can't
I
believe
remember
you can
believe that.
keep track
You know
of
what?
those
But
things,
you know why?
Ricky.
Though? The only reason I remember is because I mean, megaliths is what made us kind of explode in the first place, and then from
Megaliths are
there,
pretty flipping great, though.
it was, and we'll be back on that subject. But right after that was the ziggurats, which are essentially man-made megaliths, is what they are.
Well, and some of them aren't necessarily so much man-made.
True.
Like the ones in Peru, those stones, man can't move those stones. But the one in Babel, the thing that makes it so unique is that the Bible tells us that it was made from brick and bitumen.
Mm-hmm.
So brick and tar.
Mm-hmm.
And why that matters is because the ancient ones were not made from bricks. They were made from massive stones that men could not maneuver with even most of our technology today. We can't move some of those stones. They're just too big. We can move a lot of the stones, but some of them, there's just no moving.
And depends on how far you want to move them too, right?
Right, no kidding. But so Babel, it is just bricks. It was a lot of bricks and it was a lot of work. And it was a group of people making a city when God told them to disperse throughout the world, and they decided, well, God said we should disperse, so let's stick together, y'all. So no rebellion there or anything.
Right.
But they said in their heart, and I guess I should have pulled scriptures, but I didn't. You know what? Genesis 10:11. That's the chapters that we're pulling out of for Babel. They said we're going to make this mountain, this man-made mountain, the ziggurat, and we're going to go up into the heavens and we're going to call out the gods by their names, and this time we'll control them because we have power over their names. And God said, these guys are really united. And I don't think that if you find out God's real name, his truest name, you'll be able to control him. I don't think you can control God. I think he is a lion that cannot be tamed. I think he is a fire that cannot be purged. I think that he is so much bigger than we are. If we compare ourselves to an ant and multiply that to the 1,000th power, maybe we begin to understand how vastly bigger and other God is than we are. But whatever it was with their musings, they were making this ziggurat to go to the gods. This is a Stargate. They were going from the realm of man into the realm of gods to subdue the gods and to control them. And God said, no, honey, you're not. And now we've been to the moon, I think, I don't know. People keep coming out and saying we didn't and it was a hoax. And so I don't know. I don't know for sure that we went to the moon, but I know there are people orbiting the Earth and the space station and they haven't bumped into God yet. So I think it is safe to say that we can leave our atmosphere and not assail the gods. And a ziggurat can't be built high enough to leave the atmosphere. At least those ones weren't. So, how man was going to assail the mountain of the gods to take over eludes me and eludes modern man. But it ticked God off, and he went down and scrambled people's language. Now, Babel, if you haven't listened to our earlier episode, means gate of God.
Mhm.
So, putting the pieces together, God refers to the Elohim, the angels, the little g gods, as stars. In quite a few different scriptures. And I don't think he means it literally. I think it is figurative, but maybe it's also literal. I don't know. We certainly equate celestial bodies with gods. I mean, we have Jupiter, we have Venus. For crying out loud, we've got Mars and Pluto, all deified names. So I don't know, there's correlation there. But to have a gate to the gods and have a Stargate, it seems like you're just saying the same thing
Mhm.
with your positioning slightly different. The
Sure.
gate to the god or gate to the stars, same.
Right.
So, and that's why I think interdimensional more than uh, the folding of the
Physical.
piece of paper with 2 points on it. I remember reading Madeline L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time,
Oh,
and not to give it away, but The Wrinkle in Time literally is based off of the premise that if you have 2 points, the shortest distance is a line. 2 points, shortest distance is the line, unless you fold it in half.
yep.
And then you've got a wrinkle in time, and your points now. See, did I do a good job of lining my points up? Not too bad. So my points have lined up,
Good point.
and there you go. There's the points, which is what a wormhole, which is what a Stargate is
Yeah.
scientifically, in theory. That's what it is.
Mhm.
In reality, what it is, I'm not sure. They have found what they think are stargates. We know that ziggurats were meant to be points where mankind and the gods come together from our different dimensions. We don't just see that in Babel. We see that in Cholula, in Peru. Gosh, I can't think of any of the names of those
The
ziggurats.
the ziggurats.
Uh-huh.
Are you referring to ziggurats?
Oh, I know there's the one in Cholula. Is that the one that during the solstices, the
You're
snake
thinking of
undulates?
uh, um, Tenochtitlan, which is the typical pyramids there in Mexico City. Cholula is about an hour outside of the city, but it's in an opposite direction.
Ah,
but it's
Well,
one
and
that's
I know
actually
they're also they're the Mayans.
Chichen Itza,
Yeah. Look
right?
at you remembering all of the places. I can barely remember my name
Well,
and common words
I
right now.
mean, this is like common parlance for me because we talked about these. Talked about these places a lot, living over there and everything, and so like I know exactly where, or relatively where they're at. So
Right, but they're all meant for the gods to come down to man. Mountains, like real mountains, because these are man-made mountains,
yeah,
but actual geographical mountains were also places where men met with God. Of course,
hmm
the one that springs to my mind first and foremost is Moses and
sure.
Mount Sinai.
Sinai.
Although there's Abraham and Mount Moriah as well, which is also Temple Mount, which also we've spoken at length about that.
Yeah,
Um, but not even just in Judaism, Christianity, um, Baal and Ashtoreth, two of the main gods, Mesopotamian gods in the Middle East, were worshipped on hilltops, on mountains. And I know we talked about that. That's part of this series, the
yeah,
mountain portals.
yep.
But when the mountain portals, when you ain't got no mountains, which is apparently how it is in Iraq, not a whole lot of mountains.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
make cigarettes, you make the the
Makes sense.
Stargates.
Well, and particularly Shinar is a place that's a valley. It's not even close to a mountain.
Right.
It's like the opposite. It's like
The-
the worst place you could have built, honestly. And so
No kidding.
if you're
Um,
going up,
if you're going based off of altitude, if
right?
you're going off of where the belief that the abyss is,
Mm,
and where the golden age gods were locked away after the flood,
yeah,
then Shinar is not a bad place to go because that's where the abyss is.
yeah. Well, that's where all the technology would be, right? Um, that they were going to get their hands on anyway.
Right.
Um, so that portion which Shell just mentioned, I really wanted to mention, or I wanted her to talk about because the language component is very, very interesting in this whole portal thing and kind of leads back to the idea that there's incantations or something of the like that could be involved in that kind of thing.
Right, right. What they were saying is we're going to ascend to the heavens or
Yeah,
ascend to the mount of
correct.
the gods, and we're going to invoke their names, thus giving us power over them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And um, you already know that we're wordies, that we like to understand the ins and outs and the beginning and transitions of words. And so this is very interesting because um, most of the biblical translations say that they said we will make a name for ourselves, and we don't understand what that means.
Everybody thinks that
Um,
being famous or renowned, and I'm like,
right,
I don't buy that. It seems a little.
right. It means we will have the power over the name.
Mhm.
We will make a name for ourselves that we control. We control the
Yeah,
power. And we do that. We do that.
sure. We
We
do that.
don't, I don't think we mean to do it as Christians, but we do when we plead the blood of Jesus, plead the name of Jesus, pray in the name of Jesus. And I'm not saying not to do any of that, but I'm saying we need to understand what it means to do something in the name of Jesus.
Certainly.
Um,
It doesn't mean we get
and
what we want necessarily.
Right, and it doesn't mean that we say his name the right way X amount of times and we invoke him. He's not Beetlejuice.
No,
Oh,
God is not Beetlejuice. That is accurate.
no, he's not.
Um, so that's a super important aspect. The only thing I wanted to comment on, Shelley, you were saying about the Einstein-Rosen bridge, right? Or Stargate,
hmm
portal, whatever you want to call it. That it's not necessarily 2 points, although that's the scientific. That's always the sci-fi answer that comes through. Oh yeah, we're gonna cross
Well, yeah,
space.
because we're thinking materialistically. We're thinking touch it, feel it,
And
see it.
I wanted to make the caveat that part of this, and I'm going to get to this a little bit later too, but in more in depth. But part of this is this whole concept is the fact that you have to come to terms with, well, you don't know what transdimensional even means. Like,
No,
right?
we don't.
We don't really know how to separate time and space even. So how would you go about separating anything else? You know what I'm saying? So maybe when you and I, and you'll see why I'm saying this a little bit later, but maybe when you and I say this Einstein-Rosen bridge to cross, well, essentially cross space and time, right? Sure. Well, what else are
Yeah.
you crossing though, too? Right? I mean, we don't know. We don't know that answer, but we kind of get a feel for it, and we're going there. So from here,
Space, the
we're gonna.
final frontier. Sorry. In my brain, all that I was thinking was the theme song for
Where's my
Star Trek.
stupid reel that I made? Everybody hated that reel, by the way. I got like nothing but hate for it. It was like, stop doing that. It's all good. I don't care. I thought it was hilarious. Don't watch me. We don't like it. So I want to move on
Night
to.
show, I do what I want.
That's right. I do what I want. To what we were talking about with Babel, and kind of fast forward a little bit to Nebuchadnezzar and
You know
more
what? Before we get
implications.
to
So go ahead.
Nebuchadnezzar, can we talk about the Golden Age for
Sure.
a
Talk
moment?
away.
The Golden Age of the gods. Throughout various societies, Greek, Roman, Indian, Norse, Celtic, Hopi, Lakota, Persian, Egyptian, Mayan, Aztec, Toltec, Japanese, Chinese, you find that there is a belief in the Golden Age. And it's not necessarily like totally the same chunk of time from one culture to another, but the idea is the same. There was a time when there was technology before a great catastrophe. And
Usually a flood.
yeah, the catastrophe is almost invariably a flood. And there were gods or demigods or a plethora thereof who ruled and gave technology to the people, and it was a golden time. So it was a time of ease. It was better, the good old days.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting to me how many different myths of the golden age there are, um and how there are so many weird similarities between them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the progression, the golden age was the best, and then it was good but not great, and then it was not so good but
It
not
went in
totally
decline.
bad,
Right.
and then it becomes awful. And you see that in all of the and all of them, man, and all of them. But the Hopi Four Worlds is one that really
Oh yeah.
is a view that really breaks it down. There's the first world, and it's happy, and everybody is very connected with nature and very connected to the earth, and people are spread out and they're nomadic and they're small family group tribes that that coexist with nature. And then in the third world, you see that sorry, that was first world. Second world, people start moving more together and become less in tune with nature. By the third world, people are living hard lives in cities. And in the fourth world, you have duality. You have a world of extremes. You have a world of hot, hot and cold, cold. A world of um, ultra liberal, ultra conservative. A world of such opposing viewpoints that there's no middle ground for people to be in. And it's interesting because it seems like we must be in that fourth world now, the Hopi fourth world. It's good and bad and nothing balanced. There's no again, there's no middle ground. It's barrenness or utter beauty. It's poverty or vast wealth. And we see a lot of that today. In Sanskrit, you've got the bowl of Dharma that has one leg, two leg, three leg, four legs. It's a progression. Same way at first, the bowl is standing on all four legs and it's strong. And then in the next iteration, it's on three legs and things aren't quite as good. And then two legs and things are falling apart, and then one leg, and it's, representative of almost chaos. The Lakota and Sioux have something similar, except it's not a bull, it's a buffalo, and it does the same. It's the four ages. And it was just very interesting to look into this and find those progressions, to see that the Norse had them, that the American Aboriginal peoples had them, that Australia has these the same mythos. It permeates mankind to such a degree that one has to think there's some commonality, and it's more than just that's the way the mind of the man goes.
Yeah.
It's almost like a bunch of people experienced it, and then the police came to take their statements and they all gave similar stories.
Yeah.
It's the stories have so much similarity that it's hard not to see some sort of commonality. From our viewpoint, that would be, yes, the Elohim who transgressed, and maybe even to a degree the ones who didn't, because I don't think that all of the angels who were here on earth, who came and went on earth, I don't think all of them transgressed. All of them didn't sin. Some of them are still faithful to God, still doing what he has called them to do. But there were a bunch of them at one point, and there was a lot of technology, angelic technology shared with us. The Word of God talks about it some. The Book of Enoch goes into much more detail about it. Every other not nation, society's mythos give the same. There were the gods, there were the titans, there were the demigods, there was man. But in the age of the gods, in the golden age, there was peace and there was prosperity and there was vast technology and amazing cities like Atlantis, and the people prospered. And then a few of the usually gods, whoever's in power, got greedy and they wanted to usurp all the power for themselves, and um, chaos ensues. And I mean, in Christianity, you see that as well. Hillel ben Shakur says, "I'm going to ascend to the Mount of God. I'm going to sit upon the throne of Yahweh. I'm going to be worshipped." Um, and it's the same thing that you see between Zeus and Hades, and their brother Poseidon. What's his other name? Neptune. You just see the story plays out again and again, and you've got a lot of people who will say, well, that's because the Jews stole the idea from the Romans, who stole it from the Greeks, who stole it from the Sumerians, who stole it from the Akkadians, and I mean, maybe it's a big game of telephone, but it just
It
seems
doesn't.
more like people saw the same thing
Right.
and everybody gave an account, and it lines up fairly well that they all saw the same thing.
I think it's foolish to think. I was thinking about so many things you were just talking about. One is like, it seems weird to be an atheist. If you like look at all these people's cultures, like, you'd have to believe that there was just like always mass delusion for these people to all believe these things. Which is a bizarre conclusion
But
to come to.
that is a trait of an atheist. Well, I'm much smarter. I'm much more clever
Sure.
than the others.
Well,
Everybody
because
else has not figured out what I have figured
there's
out.
nothing else to fall back on, right? I mean, that's it. But furthermore, there was something else I was going to say, and I think I just forgot it. Maybe it'll come back to me. It's not that important, then, I guess.
Sorry, there's so much of it.
No, I know there's a lot. There's a lot to talk about. That's why I'm just like, don't worry. It's all good.
You know what? One other thing to bring up with the idea of the golden age. I was watching the documentary on Cleopatra that's on Netflix right now. It's well done. It's very interesting. I enjoyed it, but Cleopatra in the series says something that very likely she actually made claims to in reality. And she says, "I am a goddess. I am Isis." And every pharaoh claimed to be the god or descended from the gods. Julius Caesar could trace his lineage back to the gods, and I believe it's Apollo, and I still haven't double checked because it's been a while. Um, Queen Elizabeth could trace her lineage back
Oh, right.
to Woden, who is the Celtic version of Odin, which is the Norse name for the same thunder god. So that means that King Charles claims to be descended from the gods, and he does. Even Genghis Khan, his name means Sky Father, and he claimed to be a descendant of the gods. Like, there's so few, and then there's the Golden Emperor, Rick,
The Yellow Emperor?
the Yellow Emperor
Mm-hmm.
of Japan, right?
China.
No, it is China. Again, Descendant of the Gods. That's an interesting one, and I don't even remember a whole lot about him. Let's see if I can find.
And that suck. That happened to me so many times. I was looking back over my notes today, and I was like,
It's
"Oh,
like
this is super
where
interesting." I was
can I
like, "I don't
find?
remember 20 things about this. That sucks."
And you know what? Ricky's always much better, honestly, with Asian lore than I am, and I need to improve because everything that I keep finding out from Ricky is like, that's so interesting. How did I not know about this? The
If
Yellow
you're not a
Emperor of
subscriber,
China.
by
Oh,
by
he's
the
the
way,
son of heaven.
yeah, son of heaven. If you're not a subscriber, by the way, you should definitely go and subscribe and watch the Dragon Ball Z comparison. I go over the
Right.
entire Dragon Ball franchise and like line it back up with all sorts of ancient gods, and it's very cool. It's a very fun episode.
It is so impressive. Like I was not expecting
It's kind of
there to
trippy,
be much
right?
of anything. I kind of just threw like this, hey Ricky, somehow make Dragon Ball Z work in this. And
And it
then
works really well.
it was so well. It's me. It was over 9,000 guys.
I'm glad you know that reference. Good job. Good job.
My kids watch Dragon Ball Z. And
That's
now
fair.
that makes me think of Josh,
Oh,
because I teased him about that in our
that's funny.
feed.
That's good. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's right. The yellow dragon, right? He ascends to heaven on a yellow dragon.
I think it was him that, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a long time, guys, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I know there was one emperor in particular whose calligraphy, which we could go on all day about calligraphy, but I really literally could. There's crazy stuff in the Chinese language, which we will get to in some episode, I guarantee you. But he literally had some of his calligraphy written out in gold ink because it was divine. You know, it was literally a divine act for him to write out this script in gold. And I don't even remember. He wrote out his very typical thing in Chinese culture to write your own poetry, and that meant that you were a learned and cultivated individual. And so, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because isn't that really just being creative
Yeah.
and being
Well, I
like a
mean,
creator?
the idea is that you had to learn from in his case, a little different, right? But you had to learn from the ancients, and then you could be creative, right? So you had to learn from your forefathers, and then you could be creative. But I mean, there is something to be said that about certain types of calligraphy, and actually, they would use it there. I think it was called the drunken style. I mean, just like there was drunken boxing, I think there was like the drunken style of actual writing, and it to me is very reminiscent of the idea of what like the Celts would do when they would embroider or do these crazy knots, and it would just kind of like let their brain just kind of go. It would just they would go into what I guess we would call flow state, kind of idea. But really, flow state is code word for let your brain wander.
Right.
And spirit if you want to, right? If that's what you're going for.
You know what? And that's interesting that you bring up the calligraphy because that's a form of technology.
It sure
And that is also what the Descendants of the Gods and the kings, Genghis Khan, they all brought technology. Whether it was writing or in Japan, it's Jimmu, I believe, is the name of the first emperor of Japan. He claimed to be descended from the god Amaterasu. Sorry, guys. And brought order out of chaos. She's the sun goddess.
Yeah.
That's why there's the sun still even today on the Japanese flag. But Jamu was given 3 divine tools: a mirror, a sword, and a jewel.
Hmm.
And supposedly they're still in some monastery
Whoa.
there, but people aren't allowed to touch them or to see them. But the mirror one was very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's
There's pictures like of him looking into the mirror, and it almost looks like this. Like it's a communication device less
not so
than
intelligent.
something to check your hair in.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And I think that the lineages of kings and queens was not necessarily something you would think of before a Stargate. And my reason for bringing those up so that you can see the connections that my brain makes for it is that they believe in the gods to the degree that they claim descent, physical descent from the gods. So making a bridge to the gods is totally within the realm of plausibility
Sure. But also
for what they would do.
necessity, right? I mean, that's the way they
It,
see it. It's a necessity.
well, yeah, because everybody wants to go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
To
Before I
whatever
forget,
version of your home is. Go ahead.
yeah. No, you're good. Before I forget this, I wanna, man, I could go on about Chinese culture all day, but Shell was mentioning this to me, and I was reading over her notes about China, and she kind of her points that she was connecting, and so sure enough, I went, I'm gonna look up some videos. I'm gonna go kind of research again. It's been a while since I've read this stuff, and ran into some cool stuff. Finally picked up my Intro to China book, and I was just flipping through pages. I was just flipping through stuff. I was like, okay, I could read this. I could read this. Or is it? I did so much freaking research for these 2 episodes. And sure enough, wouldn't you believe that I ran across, ancient Chinese, like pre-modern Chinese. And it just had one character here and one character here, one logogram, if you want to call them that, the same thing. One here and one here. And so it would have the ancient and then the more modern. And I was just looking at them, and one of them that I came across was, weirdly enough, was a character for phallus. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. And it looks very phallic, as you might imagine, as Chinese is a logographic language. And then the more modern take on that same logogram, that same character, is now the word for ancestor. I was like, oh my gosh. I never had seen that. I'd never noticed. I'd never seen it, never researched
Otherwise,
it.
I guess it would have been a womb, but the patriarchy.
Yeah, well, you got to inseminate the womb in the first place. So
Those with the
become
power
the
got
portal.
to choose the way the letters looked.
That's right. Well, they didn't use letters, right? They by definition they had no letters.
The
So,
logogram.
I mean, you want it to be a phallus? I mean, it's probably better you draw it like a phallus.
Whatever. Have you been to Washington, D.C.? There's a great big one.
Yeah, or the Vatican for that matter, right?
All over. They're
So
everywhere.
it's good that Shell's making this connection, and I kind of had to think like, well, why are we doing this? Oh, right. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, that's the purpose of the portal. The portal is to commune with the gods that we can't commune with anymore. Not
Right.
myself,
And that
right,
at least that's what the ancient gate of the gods, the Babels, if you will, were for.
yeah.
It's just it's an interesting thing. And then you had wanted to talk about King Nebuchadnezzar.
I did.
And I think this is a good place to bring him because he bridges both the ancient and a little bit more modern history, as
Yeah,
we
so we're
shall
kind of
see.
peeking over the fence to look at the more modern, but not quite there. But it's going to be a good intro or
Not quite.
a good teaser. We'll say that. So around goodness, what was it? This was back when I was in high school and before when we went to the Iraq War. Not we, but my country did. And we were gung ho about it, man, because someone had crashed into one of our towers, and then into the other one and blown them to the ground, right? And at that time, there in Iraq, Saddam Hussein was in control. He was the governor of his time. He was the ruling authority, very much with an iron fist, and really saw himself truly as a second Nebuchadnezzar. And so Nebuchadnezzar had, in his mind, stumbled, just like we have the biblical account, right, of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I think that's how we're supposed to say it, right?
Abednego. Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Yeah, because in Spanish we say it's very marked, and I was like, why do we say it? Oh, and then I read it in English, and I went, oh, well, that's how it's written. Why don't we say it like that? Because English is weird. So
English is very weird, but those happen to be Babylonian names, not even the Hebrew children's Hebrew names. But anyhow, but Daniel uses his Hebrew name, whatever, Belshazzar.
Danny boy. So he believes that when they were thrown into the fiery furnace, and you can go and look up the story for yourself. I don't have it.
Again, we have previous episodes where we have talked about it quite in depth.
I don't have the scripture on hand, but I'm sure you guys can definitely reference that. If you can use the Googles, you can find these things. So
be in the book of Daniel. There's your hint.
There you go. Ooh, don't be too specific. So they get thrown in this fire. They're unscathed, and a fourth person shows up. Right. We all, as Christians, always say that is a Christophany, right? That Christ is the one that showed up. He is the angel of Jehovah, right? As we would many times make the reference, the angel of the Lord, in that circumstance. And we could argue all day until we're blue in the face if that really was Jesus or whatever. That's fine. You can argue that or not, but that point is actually not really what we're going to. I personally do believe it was Jesus, but that's still not the point. The point is that they came out unscathed, and there's a fourth person there. So the idea was that Saddam had was that was a Stargate, that it was a portal through which a god came down or came into our realm. And so he built basically a whole new ziggurat, tons of bricks, even had his name on all the bricks. Go figure. He was a pretty crazy dude.
Yeah. So
even
humble.
Referencing himself
what a humble
as
guy.
A very, very humble, above all things. While his people are dying of starvation, but that's neither here nor there. He references himself literally on those bricks as the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar, essentially. And it is believed that he had a Stargate, and it's believed that that's the reason that the U.S. went to that war in the first place. I mean, that's one belief, right? That's one idea about it. And I personally think that it actually makes a whole lot of sense. And the reason I think it makes sense is because there was such a prolonged occupation in Iraq. And what came of it? Nothing. Nothing came of the bloody war.
Tons of looting and destruction, though.
Yeah. Right. Priceless objects that were
in Babylon. Oof.
Yep.
It's actually kind of sad there. By the way, that's Daniel chapter 3. Is where you'll find that book, or that the account of Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
There we go.
To give them their Hebrew names.
Fancy names. L'chaim. So
Oh, by the way, happy Hanukkah.
that's
Today is
right.
the first night of the Festival of Lights.
Oh, well, happy Hanukkah, guys. I don't celebrate it, but it'd be cool too.
It's, you know what? Actually, sometime we'll talk about that. We
You and
should.
I would talk about that too.
You really see the Holy Spirit all throughout the Festival of Lights. It's
That's
very
cool.
cool. And Jesus celebrated it. The Bible tells us that he was at the temple for the Festival of Lights.
Hmm.
And it's kind of glossed over because and it's, you know what, it's a minor festival. This isn't a super big deal, but
Well,
just nonetheless.
the Jews had to compete with Christmas somehow, so they,
Well,
couldn't
that's why it's a
nearly
big deal now,
pull out the minor one,
commercialism.
right? Anyway, I think that is a super relevant point because clearly it seems like they had uncovered something or they found something, and we know that that viral image of supposedly of Gilgamesh's body, right? That was uncovered, and
Right?
that the U.S. military was quick to swoop in and grab that
That a
bad boy.
certain former Secretary of State who happened to be married to a president took so much interest in, but it wasn't on any servers that had been wiped or, anything.
They
I will
weren't
never commit suicide. Never.
right.
I will never commit suicide. I'm
No,
just
no,
saying.
no suicide committings here. No.
Putting that out right now. Don't suicide me.
But if a amphibious creature, reptile in form shows up at your door, it's going down. So I think that really, I mean, especially given the area, that really leaves us the idea that it is very, very possible that there was a Stargate that was found in there, or something that definitely was worth looking into. And there are documents that are widely, openly available now that say, looking for the Stargate, looking for, I think it comes up looking for something about the Nephilim. These are high
Yeah,
level
you see
government
pictures
documents.
of really a gate that looks a lot like the one that's behind us currently.
Yep.
You know what? And whether it was only a portal at that moment when the three Hebrew boys were thrown into it, and
Sure.
Yeshua came and hung out with them and didn't let them burn, it was a portal at that time. And that reminds me, you and I had been talking of other things that had similar properties in the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them that comes to mind for me is, well, are you done with this part, or were you going to go
No. I mean, that was really the end of the
on?
Saddam Hussein thing. I just think
Okay,
it's interesting, because why would we occupy that space so long? That was really it.
right. I'm sure there's something there. We're
Well,
definitely looking
and
for stuff, and it was more than
there's
oil.
believe me, that is that's a rabbit trail to go down for another time. But I'm just mentioning it
Right.
because it has portalistic implications, right?
Well, and Babylon is a big deal. I
Right.
mean, look how many times the Bible talks about Babylon.
Yeah.
Oof, it's a
Babylon,
lot.
Babylon.
We're so musical. We say the
It's a
word
good
and we
POD
just
song,
the
man. It's good.
songs.
And it's a
Yeah.
good play on words because he's saying Babel and then he's saying Babel on.
Babble
It's really good.
on. Yep.
Babylon.
Nope, I get it.
Good stuff.
So one of the things that I think was a portal is the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, good. That's exactly where I was going. Good. Go for it.
I mean, and it's not just me and Indiana Jones. There are other people. Nice. And it's very interesting. And honestly, the first Indiana Jones movie does a good job of bringing together a lot of points for what I think about the Ark of the Covenant. It was made according to God's very special dimensions, get them exactly right because
Mm.
they are mimicked off of a celestial item, something
Yeah,
that I believe is in the throne room of God as well. Um,
just fascinating.
but uh, i- you hear the story of when King David and King Saul before him, they would take the ark hither and yon, as you will. And one time, a one of the priests, he was a priest.
Hmm.
His job was to look after the ark of the covenant. He was doing his job that he was ordained and sanctified to do.
Yeah.
Um, but the ark looked like it was about to fall, and so he just reached his hand out and steadied it. And I think his name is Uzziah. And he dies. And it seems like, dude, that was kind of rude of God to do that to him. He wasn't being disrespectful, you know. He was trying to keep the ark from toppling.
Usa.
Um, Uzzah. Okay, hey, I was close.
Very
I
close.
just added
Very
an
close.
extra syllable to his
You just
name.
added an extra infix. That's all you did.
I did, and it happened to be Aya, which I have a preference for.
Okay. Well, your son's name
My
is Aya.
son's names.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was younger hearing the story and thinking just that God is sometimes a little bit much, you know. But I don't think it was God. He had the ark built to very specific
Mhm.
specifications so that his glory would hover over the mercy seat.
Right.
His presence, that's where his presence went to,
Hmm.
from the heavenly realm into the earthly realm.
Hmm.
And I think, and he God knew the properties, but I don't know that he could explain them. Or maybe he just didn't feel like it. Just do what I said, guys. Just
Hmm.
do it the way I said, you
Well,
know?
a lot of things we like you and I have talked about at length, right? One thing I don't even know if we've mentioned this in any of the episodes, but like, uh, shoot, who is that lady that's done that research about energy levels in different types of clothing when they're mixed versus
Oh,
not being
right.
mixed?
Right.
Uh,
I don't know who has done it, but I know the studies you're talking
I would
about
have to find that lady. It's
because the
fascinating,
resonance is different. Right, right.
fascinating. And so, like when you have mixed clothing
If
being
you're wearing
worn,
polyester and cotton,
your body literally like negates its proper energy, and so like it
it makes you
makes you
feel
more
crummy.
right. Not only that, but it literally does actually make you more disposed to be ill, to not be well, you know, to
Well,
physically have
because your body's
problems.
fighting a different um resonance.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
Like they say the best thing to wear is linen, pure linen, after that pure cotton, then pure wool.
Yep.
So it's interesting. Yeah, and I'm sure I'm in a blend right now. I'm sure I am. Uh,
Nice.
but when Uzzah um touched the ark, I think just its natural and supernatural properties killed him. I don't even think it was God killing him. I think it was
It's a
the
consequence of reality, right? The things that
right.
exist.
If you go to a high voltage box, you know, we see them. We're Americans. They're around. And you open one up and you fiddle around with a screwdriver inside of it, you're probably going to get electrocuted.
Yeah, I mean,
That's cold hard facts. It wasn't anybody being mean.
right.
It wasn't the electric company being mean to you.
this actually probably would behoove us to go and by the way, guys, a lot of this information I will post where the book that we've been reading. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can just pick it up for free and read it. It's a great book. The author is very much not a Christian, but he is extremely informative. It's a great book. I really
you can't give him until we get into the other part.
It's true, but we will get
almost
to it.
there.
A lot of this stuff about the Ark, I've been reading in his book.
Oh, see, I haven't. This is just stuff I know about the Ark.
It's awesome that you came to that conclusion because he's the one that got me thinking about it in the first place, and he gave me some details that I was like, "What? That's crazy!" So, yeah, continue. Sorry, I'll get to those points in a second and why.
But just know, Ricky just Easter egged you. I think I made myself bleed. My bird bit me this morning, and so birds are temperamental.
Oh, I'll go.
They don't make really great pets, people. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they're cool.
But the Ark, I think, had leftover God juice.
Vestigial godness.
I'm like, I know there's better terminology, but it's midnight and I can't think of it.
God's glory. Yeah, that's you can go for that.
Right.
The glory of God still inhabited. Oh, sorry.
And we know that going back for a minute to Moses. Man, Moses is so integral to so much.
He's a Christ figure. I mean, he's probably
and he's the quintessential. Yeah, he is, because the word refers to Jesus as the second Moses.
You know what's really cool? I'm sorry, this is a total aside from what we're talking about, but just because you're talking about Moses, there's a really cool passage I literally just read this week in Numbers. I think it was 11, maybe it was 11. That Aaron and his wife get all up in arms that, Moses is the chosen one. Like, what the heck? We all exist too, right? And he like prays for him and everything. But aside from that, when God allots him people to work under him, he designates those people, and those people start prophesying. And the word is very clear. It says that they never prophesy after that again, which was like, whoa, that's crazy. But what's really fascinating is Aaron gets indignant for Moses. Sorry, I'm mixing two thoughts together. I was trying to remember which one is which, but he gets indignant for Moses, and there's like two dudes that are not in the assembly that start prophesying in the village, like they're in the city. And so he's like, what's going on, Moses? This is really messed up. And Moses is like, no way. He's like, I wish everybody would be prophesying like that.
Right.
We'd be in better place. And that I like instantly thought of Jesus when the disciples were like, hey, he's preaching in your name, he's casting out demons. And he's like, well, great. I wish more people were doing that. Who cares? Like what the circumstance.
And it's working for him. Take some lessons.
He was able to do it, and you guys couldn't cast out the demon with it. Let's give him, round of applause, please.
No, absolutely. I spending so much time in the first 5 books of the Bible, you really begin to realize Moses was amazing. Which it's not surprising that the devil and Michael, that Hillel and Michael fought over his body.
Which makes you wonder.
You can find that in the book of Jude. I'm not making this up. Makes you wonder what, Rick?
Oh, it just makes you wonder, like we talked, what was our previous episode was literally about that, right? That your body can be a portal. And so like,
absolutely.
What crazy residual energies were left in Moses's body?
That's what I was going to say, right?
Cow.
We know Moses's time up up in Mount Sinai in God's presence, another that you would consider that a portal. Anytime you're in God's presence,
It's fairly
you
portalistic.
you are traversing the material realm in which we spend all of our time being aware anyhow.
Are largely restricted to. We can say it that way.
Right. Yeah, that's good too. And the spirit realm.
hmm
So we're at a liminal space when we are in God's presence, wherever that is, that space is liminal. It's a transitionary space between two different dimensions.
Yeah.
And Moses spent so much time in the presence of God. Like when he came down from Mount Sinai, they said, dude, cover your face. It is
Yeah.
glowing. It hurts us. They
Yeah.
haven't figured nobody's invented sunglasses yet. We can't look at you, man.
Yeah. I think it might have been more than that. I don't want to give too much away, but
I know I was kind of thinking of how I want to do this. We will revisit this
yeah,
again
because yeah,
in the second part of
yeah.
this album on the flip side,
On the
on
B-side.
the
On the B side, you'll
B-side.
hear all about this guy. Yeah.
But it definitely there are so many instances. Whenever there's an instance of God and man or of angel and man or even of devil and man, there are two realms that are merging at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's a good
going
point.
back,
Really
when
good
we were talking about your body being, dude, did we? I don't even know if we discussed demon possession very much. I think we did some,
not a whole lot.
but not to the point that your body, when it's not our bodies, praise God.
Well, we did kind
But
of talk about it.
yeah, I know we did some. I don't know, and if we did, whatever, and beat a dead horse. Um, the human body that is possessed of a demon, that body itself is liminal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah,
Be-
that's a really good point.
because
the same thing.
it's
Well,
no
because we
wonder it's so awful to be demon possessed.
yeah,
I
which is
mean,
why
not just the fact that you don't have control over yourself, which is horrendous,
right.
but also you're a part of a dimension that we're locked out of.
Right. And frankly, I mean that we also talked about the inverse, which is the infilling of the Holy Spirit. And by definition, when you receive when you receive when you receive the Holy Spirit, certainly, but especially when you receive the infilling of the Holy Spirit, I mean your whole body is a resonating creature, instrument, whatever you want to call it, vehicle for the man, Holy Spirit, thank you. For the power of God to work through you and in you. And frankly, dude, if you guys have not had an instance in your life when you know that the Holy Spirit like is ready to do something like at the drop of a hat just because you're talking to somebody, man, I would seriously not even encourage you, I would tell you, ask the Lord to make those kind of situations happen. Because man, when I'm out and about, and this is just me personally, when I'm out and about, I meet people all day, every day, people I've never seen, people I'll never see again. And especially at doctor's offices and stuff, I take the time and ask people if I can pray with them. And God does some crazy stuff. There's a whole family that started coming to our church just because I invited them. I was like, hey, do you guys have a church? Seems like you guys are believers. You're looking for a place. And they're like, we don't have a church. We've been looking for a place. Maybe I was like, well, then come check my church out, So we very much become liminal spaces. That's good. I really like the way you said that. And we need to be conscious that we're liminal spaces once we have received God's Spirit.
And be looking for him to walk through and touch somebody's lives through us. I mean, really, that's what we receive the Holy Spirit for, to have the power
First,
to be his witness.
yep, first to commune with him, and then to bring others to commune with him as well. Yep.
Right.
Oh, sorry, Shelley, did you want to touch on anything else on this topic?
There's
something I definitely want to mention about the Ark of the Covenant.
Okay, good. No, because I think
Petered
as far
out.
as Sinai goes, I'm going to stop there and we'll pick it up in our second part.
do have something
But
to say
go
about this.
ahead. Okay.
I'll get there in a second. That's no big deal.
You know
because
what?
we're-
Hold on. One more thing about Sinai. Sorry. And I know, sorry. And we probably talked about it in the mountains, but I think it's important too.
Mhm.
Anything that touched that mountain was to be destroyed. Wild animals, Fido. People were told don't go near that mountain. Anything that touched that mountain was set aside for destruction. What is that word? Charon, I think it is.
I think that's right.
Just like the Nephilim tribes. It was devoted to complete destruction.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Makes you wonder if it was radioactive.
No, it makes me think it was radioactive.
I was trying to be subtle, but I guess that's not going to happen now.
I know. No, not with this chick.
So also some really cool stuff that I ran across in this guy's book, which we'll get more in depth into. I guess what I'll do is I won't tag it on this video. I'll tag it on the next video so that I won't give anything away. You can find his book though, but he mentioned something really cool. So I don't know if you guys know this, how many of you know this, but the Ethiopians claim to have the Ark of the Covenant.
Right.
But also the Ark of the Covenant is believed to, well, there's several beliefs, right? One of those is that the Ark of the Covenant was lost. It was just lost in general. Like it was gone.
Yeah, because that's what you lose. Well, I mean, whatever. We lost a plane recently, didn't we? We've lost billions of dollars. So governments.
Oh no,
we
didn't lose those. Those were filtered and laundered right into Ukraine and all other places. We didn't lose them.
Right. Somebody knows exactly where they are. I'm pretty sure somebody knows where that jet
sure they're
is
all accounted
too.
for. They can find people that walked peacefully into a building on at the beginning of January, but they can't find the money.
Careful.
It's crazy. Oh no, I'm not. It's all good. All the videos are already up and about. Hey, do your thing with your camera. It's like freaking out.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it sure was. Huh? That's weird. I wasn't even like, whatever. Hello. Are we better?
Anyway,
that's not very happy.
While you do that, so apparently,
sure, it's these lights.
It might be. Another one of the things that could have happened with the Ark of the Covenant said to be under the Dome of the Rock, right? It said that it is still left there. Now, the question is, can both people be right? And the answer might surprise you. If the Ark of the Covenant is indeed a scientific phenomenon, which I would say is probably very, very likely, right? We've talked about this bleed over between science and spirituality, which we tend to conflate in our brain.
Right.
What happens if the Ark of the Covenant itself is actually under the effects of quantum physics?
That's interesting. Man.
In two places.
So Nigel talks about that.
He sure does.
I can't wait to read that. Hey, I started. I'm just also reading several other books.
I know.
And
I've been trying to
my work week.
And I'm a slow reader too, so because I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I wonder what's going on here.
Right.
15 minutes have passed, and I'm like, oh crap, I should have kept reading. So it goes. But here's the cool thing, okay? So first and foremost, it is theorized that there are other chests like the Ark of the Covenant, because the Egyptians and the Babylonians tended to have things like this, or potentially had things like this. I didn't get into the weeds on this one, so I don't know super well. But one thing that is theorized, so keep that in the back of your mind. That's a potential thing, and it would stand to reason, right? I mean, if you can put a demon in a body, you can put a demon in a box, or you can put anything in any place, right? And it could be a liminal space, like Shell just mentioned. That's
Right.
a brilliant idea, actually, brilliant reality. But the Ethiopians say that when you gaze upon the ark, that it disappears. It turns like into a mirror and no longer is visible. So that only lends to the idea that maybe the ark is a quantum machine, for God to speak to humans through. I mean, that's kind of crazy,
That's
man.
pretty interesting. And
Yeah,
based on how protons act at the quantum level, looking at them changes their behavior. Just looking, which
correct.
seems to be the most passive thing you can do. Dude, that's interesting. I have not even, now I'm so interested to read his book. And
It's a
I
great book, man.
I had to put another book back so I could get that on my unlimited Kindle. So
You'll enjoy it. I know I hate that, man, because I started making what I've started doing, Shaw. I'm gonna edit this part out, don't worry. What I've started doing is literally I will make, well, sure, you guys can know this too if you have Kindle Unlimited.
right.
I will literally make my own file for books that I'm interested in, like on those particular topics. And
Smart.
especially if they're unlimited, I just put them in there. And anytime I want to go pick them back up, I just look for them, bam, let's get it. And I'm good to go. So
Smart.
that's
Well,
the way to
and
do
they
it.
have, I think you can wish list on it too, can't
You can do
you?
that too. Sure. I
Okay.
like to keep them in my brain, like what I want to research.
Right.
And so I'm not like fiddling through
I
crap.
know it's hard because I'm like, oh yeah, and that book, oh yeah, and I mean, and there are books that I buy. I just look and see if I can get them for free first, and if I
Yeah,
can,
absolutely.
score, ka-ching.
There's a bunch of
But
them. For sure.
not you can't get them all, and there's so much to read. And still, it's still the Great Inception by
Gary
Derek
Wayne.
Gilbert.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
Derek
Gary
Gilbert.
Wayne is Genesis 6 Conspiracy. I'm sorry.
Genesis 6 Conspiracy, yeah.
Yeah.
The Great Inception might be one of the most revelatory books that I have read. Probably top 20 for sure. And I've
Wow.
read a lot of books. And I don't know that anybody will be Heiser's Unseen Realm. That one like changes your paradigm.
Yeah, it really does.
But the Great Inception just really helps you to understand the ancient mindset, and it makes reading the Bible makes it make so much more sense. It
Yep.
explains so many things. Um, and it's a heavy scholarly book. It's way more scholarly than Unseen Realm. And Unseen Realm is not for slouches either, you know. Love some Mike Heiser, and actually these two were friends. Derek
Yeah, they
Gilbert
sure were.
was friends with Dr. Heiser before he went to the Unseen Realm.
Ooh,
Man, poor Derek. He's lost two close friends this year. Two strong men of God, brothers in arms, brothers in Christ. Uh, Mike Heiser and Tom Horn.
Yeah.
Oof. I mean,
Heiser
the world, we
passed
lost
away
them,
this year.
and
Holy moly.
yep,
That's
in February, and Tom in October,
No, I think it was November.
November. It
Maybe
might have been
the very end of October. One of the two.
one of the two, but you know what? Imagine the conversations they're having with God right now.
Oh,
How lucky them. It's okay. We'll be there at the right time. So
great. Um,
when we'll get to chat with them too.
yeah, heck yeah, man. So I do want to jump from there and actually talk about landscapes because I think that that's important. He gets into this topic, and it's very interesting to think about. Nigel does. He starts talking about why portals are important why landscapes are important for portals. How portals can naturally occur. And one of the things that he mentions, and just off the cuff, I want to say, I'll just read this straight off. This is probably easiest. He says, according to David Childress, a direct quote, the energy fields across the world are stronger in some areas as compared to others, and in some areas they form a vortex, thereby making thereby making them ever more useful in a sense. So in other words, the more that they are kind of conglomerated, the more power
Is there, right?
so this theory suggests that there is an Earth grid system of Earth energy fields that allows the portals into other dimensions at points where the geometric patterns meet. The vortexes have been, or the vortices, right, have been in existence since the birth of the planet and are a natural part of its makeup. I would contend with that last statement. I think that probably is not accurate. I think that that portals were probably and vortices were relegated to certain areas of the Earth after the fall of man.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. But you know what I would say to piggyback on that?
Mm-hmm.
Nikola Tesla believed exactly that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's telluric lines. He believed that you could tap down into the earth and that there is the potential for unlimited power that we couldn't meter. No, I don't think he is wrong. And I think in the new heavens and the new earth we'll see that. But right now, greed rules, and what are they called? Utilities are not going to give up their ability to charge us. If they could figure out how to charge us for air, they would do it.
Yeah, they sure would, man. Sometimes they do.
So, right.
So that's relevant because, and Nigel gives some examples here. He posits, well, let me go with the landscape first and kind of positioning since I'm already on that vibe. In theory, this is it's like you can imagine the Earth as a dodecahedron, which is a 10. Yeah, no kidding.
Go on. It's fun that you said that.
Are you impressed?
I am.
Dodecahedron that is essentially 10 faces of the Earth, and at those conjoining areas, right, where one face meets the other, and along those lines is where these power grids, in theory, right, run for larger amounts of, or more concentrated amounts of high energy. And he goes on to say, and I won't get too into the weeds with this, but basically that portals form around kind of these concentric geometric areas of formation. And even more condensed would be the vertices themselves. So the vertices are like a hyper concentration of basically electromagnetic energy, and that the portals naturally can form around those places. And so you will naturally have points on the Earth that will allow that to flourish or to exist, or and according to them, from time immemorial, that they've been that way. And I would say from time immemorial, for the most part, yes, they have pretty much been that way.
For pretty much most of man's memory. And does he refer to them as ley lines?
He does mention ley lines. You're gonna love this book, dude. He really ties a lot of stuff in. He's a really interesting author. I think he's a good springboard author. If you're curious about this stuff, if you're kind of wondering about portalistic things, and like, I mean, frankly, a little bit of esoteric, well, a good deal of esoteric stuff, but he's not he addresses a lot of the caveat or the lot of reservations that most of us would have about like jumping feet first into the occult or the esoteric. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, let me just make that huge jump because this medium said so. You know, like a lot of us are not like that.
Right. Yeah, no way.
He's very kind of it's just very matter of fact about what he believes and why he believes it and why he allows the two to correlate or possibly come to the same conclusion and stuff like that. So it's kind of a refreshing book, to be honest. And he says that along these portals positions, we have obviously stones, special stones, megaliths, stone circles, energy lines, and these things go across the whole globe, which we've talked about ley lines before, right? That they all kind of line up.
Right.
And that's not
You
super
really
surprising.
do see megaliths lining
really do.
up. You really can go and play with, I don't know, a protractor and a compass and
Yeah.
a pin and a globe and, you know, pinpoint Giza and where the pyramids are and where the known
That was interesting.
yeah, it caught me. It made my my jaw tingle.
Sorry about that.
I was
Hopefully
like,
our
what
listeners
was
won't
that?
suffer for the
The known megaliths that, you know, that we have found, they know that there are more that, you know, are covered under
Cholula. Cholula is basically under
right,
that.
covered under forests and I don't know, probably even dirt. But that's really cool. I'm very interested to
Yeah.
get further into his book
It's super
because
fascinating.
I only, I don't know, I only got through maybe only the first chapter then. Huh.
Yeah.
Or the first part of it. It seemed like I was halfway there, but none of the stuff you're talking about did
He
I
writes some
get
pretty
to.
lengthy chapters because there's not that many.
It's
I think
true. It's
there's 8 or
3
9
chapters
total.
long.
Yeah, it really feels like you've read 3 chapters after you read one. So you know that is super interesting and you know, he just mentions it, oh, really, I took the quote right from here. He mentions that it's no coincidence that portals are found on ley lines and ancient sites, obviously, right? They are portal activators. They are, you know, centers for that kind of stuff, for hubs for that sort of thing. I won't beat a dead horse. We'll move on. I do want to mention that just kind of going back real quickly to the Sinai thing. He mentions a verse in his book about when he specifically tells Moses to build an altar with hewn stones, and I looked at the context. I don't know what the heck that actually means, and so that essentially means that these are unadulterated stones, that they have not been cut, modified, changed, or had
They're
anything
natural. No mortar, no.
And I started thinking about how interesting that was. I was like, why would God put that there? Well, sure enough, dude, he doesn't want bricks. He doesn't want quarried stones like the giants were, or you know, the Elohim were walking around creating. He wants pure stones the way he made them. I thought that was
Right.
super fascinating, and God used it
Yeah.
as a portal. He intentionally used it as a portal. I mean, you can't believe for a second that an altar is not a portal. Holy crap! I mean, that's
Right, right. You take what is earthbound and you offer it to God. I
right.
mean, it's exactly what it is. Worship, I know I was telling you that I realized that worship is the same way. It's a portal.
Well, it's sacrifice.
Right, we're interacting literally with heaven.
Yeah, yeah, man.
And
Yeah,
that's what prayer is as well, and which has got to be part of the reason prayer has power, because prayer just seems like, how does this even work? Why does this even work?
what am I
Because
even
we're
doing?
transcending yeah, right. I'm telling God what my druthers, okay, I'm aligning myself with his will. Okay. You know, how does that have power? I don't know, but it does.
Right.
And we know from the scriptures that our prayers are all kept in a bowl, you know, in heaven. They're going to be poured out at the end times. So it's just, when we say portal, it does sound so scientific or so ethereal. It sounds so weird, but it should be extremely common in an active Christian's life. Should be part of our everyday life, part of our prayer life, our worship
Yeah.
life, our time spent with him in his word and aligning ourselves with him. All of that crosses the barriers between the material world and not even just and the spirit realm, but and the heavenlies, the various degrees of the heavens.
Yep. Yeah, man. That's absolutely right. And we don't think about those things in those terms because, you know, I think if we did, I think that our lives would be very different. Yeah, holy cow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the enemies are really glad that we don't think about them like that because it gives them the power.
Yep. To piggyback a little bit more on this, megalithic sites, we've talked about this, were built upon over and over and over and reused over
Right.
and over and over. And I mention this because there was actually, I think it was, let me see if I can find it, that certain sites were reused once and again for the very purpose that, you know, that they were originally used for the previous users. Here we go. Okay. And then this is where we're gonna mention there in Ilk, I can't even say it right.
Oh, Ilkley.
Ilkley Moor in the UK, which is where Nigel, the author, is from, mentions that there is up on a hill on, what is it called? It's called the swastika stone. Now, hold on. Wait a minute. Back up. 2 seconds. Let's address the word swastika. Swastika is a word that has existed way before any of the
Well
Nazis
before
or
the
any of that
little this guy.
stuff. It's a little this guy.
This guy right here.
That's the one. So the Nazis commandeered that symbol. It did not. They used it for something very, very different. But that originally was the cross and the wheel of creation. That's what people used it for.
Yeah, the wheel of creation, wheel of time, no, wheel of creation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the Nazis, Hitler and his cronies were very interested in the occult.
Yeah.
Very, very interested in harnessing spirit power in the material world.
Holy cow. Yeah, that's actually subscribers, that's going to be an episode we have coming up in hopefully the beginning of this year.
That's going to be a series
stuff
we
out.
have coming up in 2024.
Yeah, and we're gonna follow through with it. Be patient with us, guys. We are desperately working to get our stuff done.
We will call it Not Mein Führer.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we had to get one
It's
dad joke
late.
in there somewhere. Yeah, he talks about this, and there's to not make it super long, just so that we know that these places naturally retain their portalistic quality. There is a story about a gentleman who goes, Mr. George Annings, goes on a walk with two other women, kind of not super late, about 7-ish, 6:30 or something. They go up to the swastika stone up on the top of this mountain in Ilkley Moor. They sit down to meditate, and it's about 7:15, and they all fall asleep randomly. Not to not make the story super long, they end up losing time, and they find out that when they come down the mountain, it's like 11 at night, and they're guided by some random orb to their cars. So,
fantastic!
Lovely, great! It's a wonderful outing. Went to go see the swastika stone,
Good.
and I didn't come home
Yeah.
until 4 hours later.
It started off horrible and didn't end up any better.
Um, it's interesting because we can see that although they don't actually know where this carving originally comes from, and it's very clear. Like it's a very clear carving. I showed Shell. She was like, "Oh, holy cow! Yeah, it's really
Right.
clearly very visible." There were markings, I think, from the Norse and then also from Romans. So these sites were used over and over and over because of their qualities. Let me see. Is there anything else I wanted to cover here? We kind of covered vortices, rifts. There's something that I did want to read though. We had, and I'm only bringing this up because we mentioned it in the water portals episode. Remember Sacred Waters? And I was really like bugging out, like, dude, what the heck is is everything alive? Like, what is going on? Because water responds to Veda. If you guys remember Veda Austin, the lady that we talked about in that episode. I just wanted to read this straight off because this lady says she's sitting in Ilkley Moor, and I think she's like amongst some sacred stones that have been left there. They're very megalithic and all the good jazz. And Ilkley Moor, by the way, if you don't know anything about it, it's one of the most like supernatural sites that exists on the earth. It's super, super portalistic. So anyway, she's there and she says the following. In 1991, Margaret Goodhall found herself contemplative and overwhelmed by a powerful impression that she believed came back from the Backstone's circle itself and was affecting her thoughts. She later described the following. So she was sitting amongst these stones and in Backstone's circle. Sitting in the circle and admiring the scenery, wondering how long the stones had been there, my attention kept being drawn to the largest of them. I knew it was studying us all. I find it hard to describe what happened next. I suddenly became a part of the circle itself, as if it was a living thing. I had no sense of everyday things anymore, but the stones had a physical sense within them, and they knew we were there. What a creepy thing to be happening. I felt as though I had always been a part of those moors and that I had never known change or concept of time. I felt as timeless as the moors. She says, then as if to throw everything into utter confusion, Margaret claims that the stones of the site began to communicate with her. She says, you wonder how old we are. We have existed since the world was first reformed. Yet what has never existed? We who stand here have never been changed by your civilizations. Our awareness is changeless, timeless. We work in a pattern and are at this time once again silent. That is eerily creepy. All forms do this. This is the stones that are talking to this lady, by the way. Our realm is intermingled with all earth forms. Our form is earth, and that is how we can touch you and your awareness of us in your being. Yet your human awareness has been diluted by change, birth, and death, and blah, 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 blah. For this was the knowledge of the first peoples. Some seek change in this world and other realms, but know it to be here also. Margaret says that she points to her forehead. It is within the earth here, and it is with you. It is the earth knowledge. It is life. When I read that, I was like, wow, I don't think they're alive. Obviously, I'm telling you guys directly how I feel about this, but I think that they are manipulated. I think they're absolutely manipulated, that they carry spiritual essence, and they are
Right.
manipulated by,
Or that
watchers or spirits.
they were a portal and definitely
Retain their portalistic quality.
somebody was speaking through them to Margaret. Ooh.
It's crazy because even the wording, man, it's so like biblically imagery reflective. The rocks are quiet. The Bible talks that they will speak if necessary, right? The fact that you are here on the earth, this is part of the earth. Where do we like undoubtedly know that the watchers are being chained up? They're in the earth, dude. They're
Under
just
the
sitting
earth.
there waiting. And I just was reading this. I was kind of blown away. So clearly there is portalistic qualities within the landscape itself, right? And I think that giants and gods knew, I mean, they obviously knew that stuff, and so they knew exactly where to trace stuff right
Right.
on the
Well, they're much wiser and they have access to way more information than we do. So,
and dimensions and all that good jazz. Um
right, not
it's
to mention.
just that one little extra thing. Man, there's so many other things I'd like to get to, but I think that really the only thing I wanted to cover, Shell, unless there's something else in this episode you wanted to get to, is just the ancient cultures and kind of what their thoughts are about Stargates, because we haven't covered that very much yet. But
No, that's good.
yeah,
I think we can finish this out that way.
woo, let's do it. So, guys, we're going to talk on some ancient cultures real quick. Shell really wanted to talk about this, and I think we will probably do an episode about these guys. And I don't know, Shell, if you're up for it, I would go. It's close to where you're at. It's not close to where I'm at, but I would go. I'm talking about the Tarahumara people
And outside of
in Chihuahua.
Casas Grandes,
Yeah, yeah. I think you might
my
have it a little bit
boss is
than I do.
from that area.
Is she really?
Like her family still lives in Casas Grandes. Yeah.
Do they? You should
Right.
ask
I know.
her
I was
about
like,
that.
I was thinking sometime when we're not so busy, I will
Right.
definitely
When it's not
find out what she
December.
knows about it because
Yeah.
it's so fascinating.
So there, if it's the site that I'm thinking of, it's what, and just to clarify, guys, they call them. You guys would call them pueblos. I would call them
Pueblos.
pueblos. But really, they're just villages, is what they are, and they're like the residual remains of villages. But we call them. I'm sure you guys read in your history, but growing up, pueblos, right? That was the word we all knew. But that's basically what it means. Well, the Tarumaras live in the hold on, translate back into English, in the hills and in the mountains of the Chihuahuan Desert. Okay, and they have residual remains of their, actually, I mean, they still kind of inhabit those places here and there. They use them for, I think, sacred rites and things like that.
Rituals and stuff. Yeah.
But they have actual physical doorways. They actually are doorways, but they are in a particular shape that is, I mean, if not identical, almost, quite frankly, almost a replica, except that you can actually walk through them, just like the Incas had. Right? It is the Incas, right? I'm pretty sure it's Incas.
And the Hopis.
The Hopis. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, they did the same the weird doors so that a person could fit through it, but
Yeah.
other things could not.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's the whole Anasazi lore.
Hmm.
So I assume it bleeds over into the other indigenous groups as well for the same thing.
Well, the Anastasia are a
okay.
whole thing all to themselves.
Think red-haired giants.
Jeez, there's so many freaking topics I want to get into, man. I'm so excited for next year. I'm gonna get
that's where my
stuff.
brain. Those are the connections my brain has made. Anyhow,
and you know what, guys? We may very well actually have a little bit shorter episodes coming up next year because they might be a little more concise on one particular topic. We've been so broad just coming into this year that we're kind of figuring it out, but it'll be cool to hone in on a lot of these things.
Really trying to whet people's appetites for these things, but like we're barely scratching any surfaces.
Oh gosh, I'm skipping so many details that I wish I could go into. So there is something called in the Peruvian countryside. There is something called the Ayu Marca. I'm actually not sure where the Ayu Marca is exactly, but it's called the Gate of the Gods. That's what it translates into. The Gate of the Gods to the City of the Gods is what it means. And there I think it is at the same place that they have they are identical doorways, which is crazy because from Peru
because they're
Chihuahua
thousands of
Desert
miles
is
away.
insanely far away. It is a long distance. And the Incas, I'll just jump right there to them. They, because they share so many similarities, they have some interesting ideas. Well, what they believe is that essentially that the Ayumarca was a portal activation. So I can actually pull it. I got right here my notes so I don't mess it up. And there was a bright blue light that would occasionally appear from these doorways. Okay. And when that would happen, there was actually a golden disc that they would use, they would call it a key essentially, but it was a golden disc that they would use, or bowl, and that would activate it when they were trying to activate it from their side. But there were certain days that the Ayumarca would be semi-transparent, and that tall white men, go figure, with light hair and fair skin would be seen
Blue
close
eyes,
by.
right?
Yep, with blue and or orange orbs nearby. And just saying, we're not there yet, but it has been noticed, because this is right there by Lake Titicaca, that there is, whenever you're in that area, there's tons of UFO activity there. Tons of UFO activity there. Surprise, there's water, right? And get this, legend says that in the future, that door to the gods will one day open many times larger than it currently is, and the gods will return in their sun ships.
Right.
Just
Sound like anything? Cortez, Ricky. Cortez.
Yeah. Well, geez, I think that
That's
they were.
who it was we were trying to think of.
Oh,
It
Cortez.
was
Of course, right?
Cortez.
That's crazy. Of course it was. Freaking amen. But I think that prophecy is probably fairly legitimate, and they just got it wrong, and they didn't realize who's coming. It ain't Cortez. Cortez is come and gone, man.
Unfortunately, they learned the hard way. That's why they accepted Cortez and his conquistadors with open arms, because they thought they were the return of the Viracocha.
Right. Well, and that bears saying, because now I'm going to jump to the Mayans real quick. We're all kind of in South America right now, so that's kind of the easiest way to do it. They had something that they called Celtal, which is a portal, and they believed in something called star visitors. And one of those star visitors, which we've talked about, I think, but only behind the paywall, but is Quetzalcoatl. Now, I don't know if you guys know who Quetzalcoatl is, but
Do
he's
you
one
want
of their
me to
gods.
say it so that everybody else can laugh
Go for
at
yourself.
me? It's so bad. Go on, Rick.
Quetzalcoatl.
Quintuaquatl. Quintuaquatl. No matter how I say it, it's bad.
Oh man, I thought I couldn't say it any worse. That is funny. Get this. Turns out that they actually gave the knowledge to the people on how and where to build the pyramids. I did not know that. He was the one who went through and gave them the instructions on how to do it. I mean, I knew that he civilized them, right? I knew that was part of the history. Of course, we know that the Sumerians, right? The Anunnaki. Why is that relevant? Because Anunnaki literally comes from the two words Ana and Enki, which is it means those of royal blood, the priestly offspring.
And Nana and Inki are two of the oldest Sumerian gods.
Inanna, sorry.
Yeah,
right.
Inanna.
There's one before that, right? He's the creator god that they supposedly
their
serve
father.
And
Oh Lord.
you know what I'm talking about.
Two letters. Yeah, I do.
Is it L? Is it N?
No, it's N.
It's
N. Ian. N.
But
then there's N. Makar, who might be Nimrod, and again, all of this the Sumerian lore you can find in The Great Inception
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
Derek Gilbert.
You kind of touched on these, so I'll go quick. The Zuni believed that the star people were there from the beginning of the fourth world, that the star people were their teachers, that they connected them to this was crazy, that the star people actually connected them to the star systems, so the solar systems, so that they were literally the connection to the physical, I mean, what it sounds like to me, the physical stars.
Yeah, Zuni lore.
Yep. The
The
Zuni,
Arizona Indians are all real fascinating.
Super.
Yep, absolutely.
The Zuni, the Hopi, the Cree, and the Lakota, they believed in cosmic beings that they worshipped. And they say that they arrived from the galaxy.
Yeah, like the woman in white.
Yep.
And Starweaver grandmother, right?
Yeah. The Cherokee, the Lakota, they believed in what they called them the star people, and the Inuits called them sky gods. They didn't even waste any time. They're just like, they're gods.
They're like, there they are.
Yeah. And last but not least, this is the last thing I'm touching on, and you're free to close with anything you want, Shell, but is the Hawaiians.
Oh, I didn't even look into Polynesian lore.
So apparently, and this is modern day, okay, but I think it's based on previous ancient lore. Well, it is based on previous ancient lore, but I don't know if the site has existed in prehistory, pre-written history, that is. So they call them, they have something in Hawaii called the Star Visitor Sanctuary.
Oh, and aren't they getting ready to build, or is that what? Never mind, I'll shut up. Go on.
Okay. The same day that they inaugurated it, there were light orbs that were showing up out of the lava, and the following day, the lava started to flow again. Just saying. They say that, now this one's crazy, man. This is like, I mean, this is a chapter straight out of Genesis, I swear. They say that they have their star ancestors, and they believe that, that they are extraterrestrial in nature, which by definition, if you're not from here, you're extraterrestrial.
Right. Duh.
So this was crazy. I was reading this. They say that they believe that they are the direct offspring of the star, what do they call them? The star ancestors. And that,
no, never heard that story before.
Yep. And that the Hawaiians believe that they were the gateway, the portal for the gods to seed the earth, and that their location was what made them ideal for the reason that the gods descended where they were in particular. And I mean, shoot, man, biblical understanding, the Watchers are our brothers, and that the fallen ones procreate with humans. What's the Watcher spin? That the star ancestors came because they seeded us, and that's why we're family, not because God made us that way. Which both are true, right? Both are true, but they got to put their spin on it, man. And
always,
yeah. Geez, I guess that's kind of it for this one, man. Unless you have something else you want to add, Sean.
No, I don't. I think that is a perfect stopping point.
Yep.
And we'll bless you, and then you can see us on the flip side.
Fan.
So,
dark web theologians, right? Theological dark webbers. Nah, I like dark web theologians.
I do too.
All right, dark web theologians, that is it for this episode, guys. We are parched, probably need some water and some sleep, but that ain't happening. So, you want to do the blessing, Shell? It's all yours.
Absolutely. The Lord bless you and keep you. May he shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his countenance on you and give you his peace. Amen. Shalom, shalom. At the end of this first night of Hanukkah. And Maranatha, guys.
Love you guys. Sketch on the flip side.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Christian Theological Dark Web. For questions or comments, please
please email us at thechristiantheologicaldarkweb@gmail.com. If you'd like to support us, please look for the Patreon link in the description. This has been another production of CTDW Studios. Thank you, and God bless.